All right. So with all this Jericho talk, we might as well get into the main event of our show. Sounds good?
Let's do it.
All right. So let's go back to December 9th, 2000. Vengeance. So I just want to start off by saying why this match was picked. I picked this match. It was my pick that week. And it was to coincide with Jericho's 30 years of wrestling, the AEW, what we just reviewed. That's why we picked this. I picked this exact match or these matches because it was the first time that he kind of he won his first really big championship world title. So let's go. What was going on in the world at that time? Are you ready for this?
Oh yeah.
December 2nd. Enron files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
December 6th, and this made me feel kind of bad. I feel like my Canadian card should be taken away because I never knew this. But the province of Newfoundland is renamed Newfoundland and Labrador. I got my good buddy
Mm.
Chris Walsh right now, yabba dabba doing me. Next, on December 12th, Winona Ryder is arrested for shoplifting charges.
Shoplifting.
Remember
Mm.
that? That was big
Yes, I
news.
do. Yeah, considering she's rich.
And that was only days after
Shoplift.
the pay per view. On December
Yeah.
22nd, you'll remember this one. Richard Reed attempts to destroy a passenger airliner explosive in his shoes aboard American Airlines Flight 63.
Mm.
Now, I just want to say because you got to remember this is December. This pay per view happened December 9th, 2001. It was only months after 9/11. So a lot of
Yes.
this is circled around that we're, So for instance, the last tidbit I have for you is on December 24th. Time magazine named New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani Person of the Year for leadership after the 9/11 attacks.
Wow.
So
Huh.
yeah, so lots happening in the world. This is interesting because this is the first match that we're reviewing where both of us were very well. Well, you were kind of alive last two ones, but zero
Wow. Wow.
old. So, but this is like the first one that we're reviewing where we probably vaguely, like, really recall what was happening around that time. So, with that being said, let's take a look at what was in the theaters at that time. I want you, let's make this a game. I'm going to give you three guesses, okay, to name
Mm.
any of the movies that were in the top 10 in December of 2001. Go.
Mm. 2001. The Sixth Sense.
Wrong. That was 1999.
In the top 10?
Yeah, anyone in the top 10. So name
Um,
2001.
Red Dragon.
Nope. One more guess. You can do it. That's not a hint or anything. That's just me saying you can do it.
The Scorpion King.
No. Scorpion King didn't come out until little in March of 2002. So,
Oh,
I'm not going to go through all 10, but I am going to start with some of the highlights. You know what? I will go from 7 down. So,
alright.
number 7 was Shallow Hell, starring Jack Black, Gwyneth Paltrow, Jason Alexander. Number 6, Black Knight, Martin Lawrence.
Oh my god.
Number 5, Spy Game. Number 4, Monsters Inc.
Okay.
That is the big one, Monsters Inc. Number 3, Behind Enemy Lines. And
That's
now here's
Steven
where
Seagal.
we're used to Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. And number 1, Ocean's 11.
Wow.
Now, later this month, a new one of the Lord of the Rings movie came out. So I think it was like the second one or Return of the King or something like that.
You know what? I've never watched any of those. Lord of the Rings.
Fun fact, I have all 3 of them on DVD, yet I've never watched any of them.
I It's a funny story all the time. Is I've tried to watch the first one and I've fallen asleep every time.
Well, there you go.
Every
You
time.
know, next time you have insomnia, what to take.
And and just to go on that, also never watched a Harry Potter movie.
Now that's blasphemy.
Wow.
Someone that I can't. Someone that looks like Dolby, such as you, and you've never seen a Harry Potter movie.
I'm not sure what that means. I'm sure it's not good, but I'm gonna look that up later. And if
All
it's
right,
insulting, I'm coming back next week.
let's move on to music. Number one song
All
at the
right.
time. I'm not going to make you guess this because we all know music. At the time was "Family Affair" by Mary J. Blige.
Oh man.
Before that, I want to just do a couple. So before that was "I'm Real" by Jennifer Lopez featuring Ja Rule, which is one of my favorite songs. Before that was
That,
"Fallen" by
that
Alicia
doesn't
Keys.
surprise.
But the big thing, the big one was on December 22nd, the song that beat "Family Affair" by Mary J. Blige was the first single, I believe, by a little band that would go big. "How You Remind Me" by Nickelback.
Wow. That was from the Silver Side Up album.
Yeah, there we go.
Remember that? That was a massive album.
All
Massive
right.
mon
Yes, it was. So let's go. Now that we looked, we know what time frame we're in. Let's talk about how these matches came together. This I gotta kind of do off the top of my head because, and maybe you can help me piece some things in if I forget because I forgot to write this part down. But it all
uh
started. So we had the invasion angle,
Yes.
and it culmin. Well, first of all, during the invasion angle, The Rock and Chris Jericho formed some sort of an alliance, a loose alliance, because they both hated Stephanie McMahon. And throughout that alliance, Rock kind of teased that Jericho never won the big one. Well, at No Mercy beat The Rock for the world title or the WCW world title and finally won, quote unquote, the big one. But The Rock kind of got Jericho into agreeing to like a rematch on Raw. On Raw, what was the date? November 5th. So they had a rematch. The Rock um, beat Jericho with a surprise roll up. And irate Jericho attacked The Rock after the match. So Jericho and The Rock were made. They were both together on Team WWF versus Team Invasion for the winner takes all match at Survivor Series. And Jericho cost The Rock, like he made The Rock get eliminated. So that is their feud in a nutshell. Now, the next night, there's no more WCW or ECW. Vince McMahon wants to award the WWF title to Kurt Angle for he was a mole. I know this is all kind of all over the place if you don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, but Steve Austin was the champion at the time, so he was going to strip him, give it to Kurt Angle. Ric Flair made his debut in WWF, his re-debut, claiming that Shane McMahon and Stephanie McMahon have sold their stake to Ric Flair just before the match at Survivor Series. So Flair says, "Nah, you're not stripping Austin of the title and giving it to Kurt Angle. Basically, we're going to do this the right way, and we are going to have a tournament in Lehman's, right?" So another thing that happened that same night was your favorite club came to be the Vince McMahon Kiss My Ass Club. The next week on Raw, Vince McMahon was going to have JR kiss his ass, but Austin came out and no, did Austin? No, Austin didn't come out. It was
No, it's
Undertaker that came.
Undertaker.
Yeah, and he made JR kiss McMahon's ass. But didn't
Yeah, 'cause
Austin come out and help him or something like that, or come out at the end? Can't
I
remember.
don't I don't think so because I remember JR just laying there being humiliated the
Okay,
entire.
so and it was in Oklahoma. So anyway, SmackDown. Like I said, I'm sorry guys, I'm going off on my head. SmackDown had the who was it? Is The Rock? I think was supposed to join Vince McMahon's Kiss My Ass Club. Mm,
The
I think it,
Rock. Well, that was the end of the club with The Rock, I
The
believe.
Rock he was Vince wanted The Rock, and then The Rock somehow
So
got
he
it.
was he was gonna have um him kiss Trish, and then he changed it to Rikishi, wasn't it? Are we
Yeah,
talking?
something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah, so The Rock put Vince McMahon's face in Rikishi's ass. Now I know everyone's being like, okay, well, why are you telling me about the history of the Kiss My Ass Club? They're into. So without further ado, let's get to it. Vengeance, December 9th, 2001, taking place at the San Diego Sports Arena in San Diego, California. The attendance was 11,800. This pay-per-view was sponsored by Lugs. Pepper, have you ever had a pair of Lugs?
Never.
You know what? I did. I, in high school, I had a pair of Lugs shoes. They were white without laces. My mom called them my moon boots. They were hideous, but I thought they were cool because Lugs was cool at the time. The official theme song for the pay per view was Sinner by Drowning Pool. Pepper,
Oh,
are you a big fan of Drowning Pool?
only when the bodies hit the floor.
I was a big fan of Drowning Pool, and I was actually happy because this was in December. In March of 2002, it was WrestleMania 18, and they actually on the pay per view. And I was a huge fan of Drowning Pool at this time. I mean, Bodies was their number one hit. It was very popular. It was sad because in August of 2002, their lead singer Dave Williams passed away, and the
Yeah,
band tried to continue on, but they just couldn't get to where they were at in the summer of 2001. So
yeah.
let's get on to our match. First of all, we have The Rock versus Chris Jericho for the world title. So it begins with a collar and elbow tie up. You get a headlock by Rock, typical shoot to ropes, tackle, arm drags by Rock, followed by an armbar. Jericho did some kip ups, which was impressive because, like, I mean, that's the one thing about Jericho. I just want to say he's very versatile. Like, he's always whipping out new moves in repertoire. I was pretty when I saw him do a kip. It's been a long time since I've seen Jericho do a kip. Um,
Um, just but I was watching the match. I did notice with Jericho, like, he was in really good shape here, like body
oh yeah,
wise. He looked tremendous. Um, I forgot about because one thing I know you mentioned how versatile Jericho is. Jericho has been one of the, I would say, biggest proponents in the business of changing the look up. How
yes,
his look is different all the time. So in this era, he's got like his ponytail's red, so like the bottom of his hair is like dipped in like red dye. And it's just a it's a different look.
and this
And
was when like he would come out and he would have the pants that were like check.
yeah, he always had cool different gear. Like I said, the look he always changed it. He always changed that up. Like and you think in the last 30 years, I could probably think about 10 different looks Jericho's had, just off
Oh
the top of
yeah,
my head.
it
Um,
it's what
anyway,
keeps him fresh.
yeah, well, that's you have to, like, you don't have to change everything, but if you're always the same, then people get bored of you. And that, because Jericho, I mean, you look at the two guys he's wrestling on this show, they generally don't have to change anything because they're so over, it doesn't matter. They could do anything. You see what happened when it didn't go over well. Guys like Jericho, who, I mean, he's had a great career. He's not quite Austin the Rock, so he has to do things to stand out.
Yeah. So both men are jockeying for positions early on. At one point, Rock's on the apron and Jericho hits his patented springboard dropkick. Both men are brawling on the side. Then they go on the outside. So inside the ring, and Jericho hits a flying elbow from the top rope, followed by a suplex and a trademark Jericho cocky pin. I love this cocky pin that he used to do, where he just put the foot on the chest and flex. I love it every time it's in a video game, or it used to be in I think the WCW one. I would always pull it out, especially when you're playing a game with friends. It's perfect to pull out. I loved it. So Jericho has.
It was funny on the N64 days when you beat somebody with that pin.
Oh yeah, yeah. So Jericho has a headlock on the Rock, and he asks the ref. This one might be the earliest known piece of footage of Jericho doing his trademark "ask him, ask him." So Jericho misses a lion salt. Rock follows up with some right hands. Jericho ducks under, hits the ropes, comes off with a face buster. Jericho goes for a second lion salt attempt and is successful, but only gets a 2 and then argues with referee Earl Hebner. Rock gets off a near fall off, a crossbody roll through. Both men are back on the outside. Jericho catapults Rock into the ring post, sets Rock up for a rock bottom on the announce table, but Rock reverses it into a DDT through the table. Back in the ring bottom, but misses it. Jericho then goes for the people's elbow, but the Rock tries to turn it into some sort of a sharpshooter before Jericho hits a sharpshooter of his own. It was not the best sharpshooter because Jericho didn't really sit down, so it looked really bad. I don't know if, maybe Rock was hurting. He's like, or maybe Jericho was hurting where he couldn't sit down. I don't know, but it looked really bad. Or maybe that was the point, that it looked so bad that Rock was able to escape, because then he wrapped Jericho up into a small package for a 2 count. Both men get back to their feet and Rock hits the rock bottom, but is too fatigued to go for the pin. At this point, Vince McMahon comes down to the ring and gets on the apron. Rock hits him off, hits a spine buster on Jericho, and goes for the people's elbow. In middle of the people's elbow, Vince gets back on the apron, but Rock flips Vince into the ring. Rock corner distracted by McMahon. Rock turns around and gets low blowed by Chris Jericho. Jericho hits the rock bottom on the Rock and gets the win at 19 minutes and 8 seconds, making him the world champion. Jericho's celebration, though, is abruptly cut short when Austin limps down to the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts on the Jericho Rock match before we get into the next one?
So a couple things when I was watching the match. Obviously this is 19 years ago. Even though I was watching wrestling nonstop at the time, there's still things you forget about. Not that I ever didn't think The Rock was insanely over, but when you watch him come out in the beginning of that match, it's like, that's your star. He's a mega star. And Jericho comes out, and it's like, this guy's this guy's the biggest cocky moron ever. If you're a basic fan, anyway. The Rock. The other thing I wanted to mention on him, he gets like, not so much now, but I can remember people were there. A lot of fans, smart fans, would always comment that his work was not that great in the ring, but I thought he was excellent in this match.
See, I thought like he could get, because moving sometimes his Samoan drop would be sloppy or his belly to belly, but it worked for him, and I never thought that he wasn't a good worker. Like it was sloppy, but it was like intentionally sloppy because he was just moving so fast.
Yes. And probably to his credit, Jericho is a better in-ring worker, and he can help elevate The Rock in that respect in this match too. The Rock, the other thing I was going to mention, again, it's 2001, so he's only 5 years in the business, 5, 6 years. Man, I'm watching him run around the ring, like attack the ropes. Athletically, he was great too. Like he was money. He was absolute money.
Yeah.
And if you really think about it, this is still in that era where wrestlers protected their characters, moves, gimmicks. He put Jericho over with his finishing move,
Yeah.
which was tremendous because that's like the ultimate sign of disrespect from a wrestling perspective. Somebody uses your move against you and beats you. So I mean, this match was really well done. Great heel in the match. He bumped like crazy. A lot of good transitions. Even simple stuff like headlocks and arm drags was just solid. Everything was solid in that match.
Yeah. I
I
agree.
could
It
I
was a
could
very
have
exciting match too.
I could have I mean you could make the argument that it was a little convoluted at the end of it. In those days Vince was so involved in main event matches. So I mean you could make the argument that that's kind of a could have done without some of that, but it worked for me. I think
I
it was
thought it
very
was
well done.
great. I thought it was great because everything was well planned out. Like I mean, when we get into the next match, we'll see more of that. But I just it was 19 minutes, but it did not feel like 19 minutes. So let's get to the next match: Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Chris Jericho for the WWF title, and to become the first ever unified world champion. Was it not unified? What was the term? Undisputed world
Undisputed.
champion. Sorry, it's getting late. So Austin lips down the ring during Jericho's celebration. The match quickly begins with Austin coming in hot. Well, the announcer debates whether the bell has rung or not, which it has not at this point. Kurt Angle comes into the ring. Now, we didn't really mention, but Kurt Angle and Stone Cold Steve Austin had a match earlier that night with Austin winning. So Kurt Angle comes into the ring and nails Austin with a steel chair. Jericho staggers to his feet and advances towards Austin, but is cut off by The Rock, who hits a rock bottom on Jericho. Rock then chases Angle to the backstage area. The bell officially rings. With both men down, Earl Hebner starts the 10 count. Jericho makes a pin attempt, but only gets a 2. Jericho gets the upper hand, pounding Austin in the corner. Austin hits a spear, bangs Jericho's head into a turnbuckle, and attempts a stunner, but Jericho retreats to the outside. While on the outside, Austin pummels Jericho, then explore. Jericho comes back with an offense on Austin. Both men are on the Spanish announce table. Jericho teases a suplex from the table to the floor, but Austin reverses it, sticks up his middle fingers, signaling for a stunner. But Jericho catches Austin's kick and attempts a walls of Jericho on the announce table. He can't quite turn Austin over, though, and is flung to the floor. Austin hits a suplex on the exposed concrete floor, then sends Jericho back into the ring. Jericho sidesteps Austin, and Austin rams his shoulder into the ring post. Jericho starts to work over the arms, but Austin comes back with a clothesline. Austin then goes for a pin attempt, but only gets 2. Jericho kicks out, but quickly grabs Austin's arm into an armbar. Jericho uses the ropes for leverage, and Hebner catches him and kicks his legs off the ropes. What did you think of that spot?
Say that part again. I'm just watching some of this back right now.
Yeah. Jericho uses the ropes for leverage. He has Austin in an armbar. Hebner catches him and kicks his legs off the ropes.
Oh
Jericho's
yeah,
legs.
okay, yeah.
I knew you would have. I knew you would have an opinion on this part.
That was it. Earl Hebner always did that.
Yeah, this is his spot. This is one
Yeah,
of
it
his
was his
favorites.
spot.
I don't know why he didn't kick like Shawn Michaels out of the sharpshooter, but that's another story.
Ooh, man, we'd be here all night. Um, that I don't know. I didn't. You know what's funny? I never had a problem with that spot because it was always like I always took it as Hebner somebody to do something, they're not doing it, and he just did it. And he's the only guy that did it, so it was exclusive to him. That being said, the referee technically should never be putting their hands on the competitor. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I was so used to him doing it that I never really, I don't know. It's one of those things. It's a Hebner thing.
So okay, so first of all, I do agree with you. I don't really have a problem with it as long as it's exclusive to Earl Hebner. But unlike you, I've seen other referees do it, and I do have a problem with other referees doing it
Yeah.
because, like you said, they should never, like Earl Hebner should never do it. But at the same time, at this point, he was the head official, and it was his spot, and I really don't like it when other referees do it. I think it's almost lazy in a way. I know it gets that
Yeah.
pop, but I don't even think it gets the pop that it used to. But anyway, we'll move on.
I think I just end that part. I think if a ref is gonna kind of clap back to a wrestler, like a heel or something, the heel should be like starting that. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Because there's been like the shove spot with refs, like something like that. Even at that point, you should be disqualifying them. But anyway, let's move on.
All right. So we have a little back and forth until Jericho gets Austin into the walls of Jericho, but Austin makes it to the ropes. Austin then sends Jericho into the ropes and fires. Jericho fires back with a forearm, but Austin ducks, and Jericho hits our good old pal Earl Hebner. Jericho then hits with Hebner down. Jericho hits a low blow on Austin, and then gives Austin the Stone Cold Stunner. Vince comes down, so there's no referee. Jericho goes for the pin. Vince comes down to the ring with Nick Patrick, who was described as being a crooked official. Goes for the count while Ric Flair grabs Patrick out of the ring, and McMahon then sucker punches Flair and sends him into the ring post. Obviously, this sets up for the McMahon Flair match that we're going to have a month from now at the Royal Rumble. Back in the ring, Austin low blows Jericho, and then Austin attacks Vince McMahon. Austin hits a Lou Thesz press on Jericho, but then Jericho goes for an attack from the second rope, but Austin catches him and puts Jericho in a walls of Jericho. So everyone's using each other's own finishing move here.
Yeah.
Jericho is tapping out, but there's no referee. At this point, Booker T, who is unemployed in storyline at this point because he got fired because he was a member of the Alliance, hits the ring and hits Austin in the back of the head with the championship belt. Vince throws Hebner back into Austin at 31 seconds to become the first ever undisputed world champion. Matt, your thoughts on Austin versus Jericho?
Well, this showed that how versatile Jericho was because he just had back-to-back matches with the two biggest stars in the business that are different workers. There's a spot in that match I really liked. I really liked that spot where Austin did the sunset or gave a back body drop to Jericho, and Jericho held onto his leg and rolled him through into the walls. That was awesome. That was awesome. Oh, this is 2001, so Austin's kind of winding down, like going to be winding down to this time, but you wouldn't really think that watching this match.
No.
Yeah, they were bringing it. They were bringing it.
One of the things I wanted to say that I forgot when I was talking about 2001 and WWF at the time was this was probably like I was still in the very height of my fandom here. This was around the time I was probably I think I was like 16. I was like I'm becoming a professional wrestler. And in fact, here's a fun fact for you. December of 2001, I actually helped out at my first ever wrestling show.
Oh,
Believe it
wow.
or not. Yeah. It was the first ever Ontario Championship Wrestling show. um,
Oh,
I went there as a fan by myself, watched the show, and at the end, I asked if I could help tear down. And like I think it was his, I think his name was Neil. He's like, "Ah, sure, whatever, kid." And I remember like there's other kids helping out, and I managed to get in the ring. And I took a bump. And that was the first bump I ever took, and I was like on cloud nine. So anyway, I helped out, took down the show, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to help this company, whatever." And then I'm on Flame Wrestling. I do wrestling,
oh man.
which is where I first met Holly,
Oh, wow.
which brings everything around. But yeah, at this point though, I loved, unlike a lot of other people, I really enjoyed the invasion angle because I didn't look at it like other people did, where they were like, "Where's Sting? Where's Kevin Nash? Where's Diamond or Scott Hall? Where's Hulk Hogan?" I looked at it like, "Wow, look at all these like wrestlers that were these new guys that are coming into the WWF, and we're going to see like these matches that we'd never seen before. We're going to have like ECW. We're going to
Yeah.
see Lance Storm. RVD was there. Tommy Dreamer. I was so excited because there was so much things that we got the Hurricane out of it. I was really like all in on this. And I really think this was this was about the turning point, maybe just before this, where work rate went up, where we actually saw better matches in WWF.
Yeah, they had a big influx of talent, right? So that locker room at that time was probably I mean, you could argue that that was the best collection of talent the company's ever had.
You know what? There was one thing that I did not also I wanted to do is I wanted to take a look. Let's kind of go back. I wanted to take a look at some of the other matches, like not review them or anything, but I just want to because I like to do this, let everyone else know what was on the card at the time. So some of the matches were Albert Hottie versus Christian and Test. Edge was a WWF Intercontinental Champion, and he had a match against William Regal. Dudley Boys, who were the tag team champion, took on Big Show and Kane. Undertaker versus Rob Van Dam in a hardcore match. We had Trish Stratus versus Jacqueline for the women's championship. And we also had Jeff Hardy versus Matt Hardy with Lita as a referee.
Yes.
Now, there's a reason why I want to bring this match up, because this match, I remember watching this pay per view and watching the Hardy versus Hardy match, and I had high expectations because I was a pretty big Hardy Boys fan at the time, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh wow, like imagine what these guys are going to do, and it flopped.
Ooh,
I
yeah.
think it was. I don't know if it was just my opinion, but I thought it was terrible, terrible, and it actually brought me down for the remaining. Even though I was a Hiko fan and I really wanted him to win the undisputed title, I was still kind of like it brought me down going into that.
Yeah, it was I they dropped that feud pretty quick too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, they were back tag teaming not long after this, but yeah. So Chris Jericho undisputed title. I think it was good. It was their attempt at creating a new star. Jericho was hot at the time, and
Hmm.
that is my review for this week.
I
So,
I
any
gotta
final
tell
thoughts?
you, I gotta tell you, I can remember exactly where I was watching this show.
Oh yeah, what is your account?
I could, okay, so my friend and I, we were my friend from high school. We would watch wrestling every day on lunch break. We'd go to his place. We'd watch Raw recorded. We'd watch almost every even and before. I remember we were watching like a couple years before we were watching WCW Thunder and all that, like everything. We'd watch it all week. Well, this time he had a new girlfriend, so we weren't going out to watch as much wrestling anymore.
No, no, that's
You know
how
how
it
that,
works.
yeah, you know how that works. So anyway, we used to go watch pay-per-view all the time. There used to be a local bar that we were allowed to, the kids in town were allowed to go to watch pay-per-view. So at this point, they didn't do that anymore, and I suggested that we drive to Windsor to go to Famous Players to watch it. So for those that aren't in Canada, Famous Players, Cineplex would play WWF pay-per-views. I believe they still have been up to the last couple of years, but you could
Which is
go and pay.
ridiculous because the price to go there and watch it is like $20 and the network's, 12 or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. So it doesn't make sense now, but hey, because it's like going to the movies. You just buy your ticket, go in, watch pay-per-view. So in order to go to this show, his girlfriend came. So our guy wrestling time had his girlfriend. So he's trying to play it somewhat cool, not being this huge wrestling dork. But I'm in the car talking about, oh man, Jericho, like going on and on all the way up. We go to the show, and when you're at the movies and you get the combo and you have the large popcorn and large pop, I got the extra large pop. Well, during the Rock Jericho match, I had to go to the bathroom to the point I could not wait. So I rushed out. I came I came back as fast as I could. I got in. I'm trying to watch the match as I'm going up the aisle and not bumping into people. And as I sat down, Jericho beat The Rock. So I remember that fully. I ended up watching the whole thing later, but that's what I remember from that show 19 years ago.
Yeah. It's it's funny because when I turned it on to go watch it, I was just like, wow, like it's just like there's something about that time period. Like, it's not just nostalgia. It's when you're watching it, like you
Yeah,
get excited,
yeah,
and it's not a nostalgia thing. It really is. It's just the crowd was hot. Everyone had signs. Everything's too clean now in wrestling. I'm under that impression. Everything's too clean. Everything has to look nice and crisp. Everything has to be pretty. I really miss kind of like a little bit of the grittiness of it. I think that's why I like the new NXT setup with the cage. Hopefully they keep it. I don't think they will. Anyway, so Jericho winning the Undisputed title. That's my pick this week. Your pick. Are we going to watch?
um. So next week we will review the main event from Wrestle War '89, Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat.
Oh, nice. I'm just
This
writing
is
it down right now.
so this is the third match in the Flair Steamboat trilogy.
All right. You know what? I think I'm going to let you call that match next week,
All right,
Mr.
I'll
Note
do it.
Taker. I'm going to let you do that because there's going to be a lot of back and forth in that match. I already know it.
Well, so this one the longer match, but the second match was really long, so I didn't pick that one. But I think this match I think was the best of the three, so that's why
Yeah.
I picked it. And I don't know if you want to do this, but the 2 weeks following, we're getting closer to Halloween. So, do you want to do some Halloween themes on our next two picks?
Oh, so are we going to do this already? Because I already have my next pick.
Okay, well, you go with that.
Oh, because it is Halloween themed.
Okay, good, perfect. That's
So,
all I need to know.
all right, okay, because I have my pick next. So
I
there
just
we
thought I
go.
would throw that out there because we're getting close to the unofficial holiday.
Yeah, I'm already there. I have it picked out. I'm ready to go.
Hey, and it better not be anything in Memphis with mummies or anything.
Halloween Havoc 95. Anyway, with that all being said, next week we are going to be watching Wrestle War 89, Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat. I am Derek. Matt, you're Fruity Booty. Everyone, follow us on all of social media. Matt tweets. He does a great job of it. I'm not really on social media, so won't hear too much from me unless you're Josh Alexander and I praise you. Good night, everyone. Have a good week.